It is your Wednesday daily delivery. I am Michael Rand. Happy to be back for another day. Hope everyone is having a great day out there today, and terrific show coming up for you right now. Randy Johnson from the Star Tribune will join me here in just a little bit, talk Gopher football. Coming off kind of a laugher, feel good about yourself kind of game against FCS opponent Rhode Island. Competition gets better this weekend against Nevada, and then gets considerably better the week after that with the start of the Big Ten season and Iowa. Randy and I will talk about anything we can glean or learn from that Rhode Island game and what we should expect versus Nevada and beyond. Chip Scoggins also joins me here in a little bit to talk about his Football Across Minnesota feature, debuting again for the fourth year. This was the first one this week, talking about a great story over at St. Paul Johnson High School where football is making a bit of a revival thanks to star player Justice Moody and a big week one win. So we'll get into that. Minnesota-Duluth football also has a great story that Chip wrote about this week. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. End of the show. Can't stay away from Kirk Cousins, but I've seen the national narrative turn on him, and it's not just, hey, one bad game. It's how that bad game in his debut with the Falcons came about and why it might be a concern. And I'll get to a listener email about field goals that kind of caught my eye, made me think about kind of field position this year and how things are being impacted by the new rules. Lynx in a minute here. First, though, what I miss. Twins win 10-5, 10 runs. That's like a week's worth of runs for them lately. 10 runs against the Angels. Snap their 4-game losing streak. Pablo Lopez, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, no earned runs. He did give up 4 runs, but all of them unearned because of an error that precipitated all of the runs as the Angels tried to make a comeback. Twins kind of snuff that out with more late runs, end up with a comfortable win, snap the losing streak. Pablo Lopez, 15 wins on the season, got the ERA under 4. He's having a great second half of the season. Biggest story from the game, though, wasn't one individual person. It was an inanimate, at least I hope it's inanimate, maybe it's inanimate at this point. Rally sausage is back. I don't know, here's the thing. I don't know why the rally sausage ever left. Why do you keep, putting this away when it's obviously good luck and then only bringing it out at times of desperation? Why not have the rally sausage for all 162 if it is such a lucky kind of indicator of success? That's what I don't get. So right now, anyway, they bring it out. They've been struggling lately, obviously slumping. They were 6-15, I think, in their previous 21 games. I wrote about that on Tuesday, just like, hey, gasping to the finish line. They got these 3 teams that aren't like nipping at their heels exactly because they haven't been playing great either. But before Tuesday's game started, Twins were only 3 games up on Boston, Detroit, and Seattle. And all those teams just barely over 500. But any of those teams, one hot week combined with a mediocre to bad week from the Twins, they're going to catch them. So I kind of took a look at it, broke it down, like who is the biggest threat. I feel like it's Boston for a number of reasons, the biggest one being the Twins still have 3 games against the Red Sox at Fenway in a couple weeks here, right after that Cleveland series. So Boston has a chance to kind of make up ground in a head-to-head situation. Twins do own the season series against Detroit and Seattle, so that gives them kind of an extra game of cushion in the tiebreaker kind of race there. But Boston, the Twins do lead that season series 2-1, but Boston has a chance to, either pull even with a 2 out of 3 in that series or claim the season series with a sweep. So Boston feels like the biggest threat. Boston lost yesterday, so did Seattle. Detroit wins, so Detroit still 3 back of the Twins. Boston and Seattle now 4 back of the Twins for that final wild card. 17 to play now. Got to stack up some wins. Got to keep kind of those teams at bay. You don't want to have those teams, getting any closer than 3 games, and it starts to get tense. You start to feel it. And by the way, looking at the standings, it's amazing. 4 teams in the American League Central are over 500 right now. Cleveland, Kansas City, the Twins, and the Tigers. 3 of those teams almost certainly will make the postseason unless somebody catches the Twins outside of Detroit, which again would be Boston probably, or the Mariners. Chicago, the White Sox, on the other hand, are 80 games below 500. 80 games below 500, 33 and 113. So the division as a whole is under 500, even though 4 out of the 5 teams are over 500. I digress, though. This is about the Twins, mostly about the Rally Sausage. Kyle Farmer hits a 3-run homer, Matt Wallner homers, Carlos Santana homers. Royce Lewis sits. First time in a few weeks that he has gotten a day off. He is fighting a slump. Maybe he's acknowledging it a little bit right now, as opposed to earlier this year where he says, I don't do slumps. I don't do that slump thing, whatever it was he said. Maybe the hubris caught up to him a little bit. Maybe he's playing through something. Maybe it's just natural regression. Maybe it's pitchers figuring him out. Whatever it is, he got a day off to start maybe feeling a little bit better about himself, kind of regroup, maybe come back stronger in the next one. But the Rally Sausage, why did they put it away? What if it's lucky? Why do you get rid of something that's lucky? I get that it's gimmicky. I get that they kind of like look at it now and it's months old and it's probably disgusting. Who cares? You need to win games. Where was the Rally Sausage 3 weeks ago when they couldn't score a run when they were starting this slide? Why wait so long to bring back the Rally Sausage? I just don't get it. I'm a big believer in luck. I know that the sausage probably isn't lucky in and of itself, but if you think something is lucky, it is lucky. If you think it can affect performance even 5 or 10%, why are you putting it away? Anyway, I hope the Rally Sausage never disappears again for the rest of the season for the sake of the Twins. They should be bringing this thing out all the time. They should be using all of its magical powers to make these guys hit better because they need all the help they can get. Now, the Lynx, speaking of the playoffs, speaking of positioning, speaking of potential tiebreakers, things like that, Lynx, very clearly going to make the playoffs. They clinched a while ago. Playoff tickets on sale today, I believe. Single game tickets, I believe, on sale today. Some interesting things to consider within that. They've been on fire. They won again yesterday. Completed a road trip, 3 games and 5 nights. They win all 3. They win yesterday against the Dream. So they go 3-0 on the road trip, 27-9 right now, the 2nd seed in the league right now. However, they are just 1 game up on Connecticut right now. Lynx still have to play New York, which is the league's best team, and Connecticut in their final 4 games of the year, both of those road games. Connecticut has the tiebreaker on the Lynx. They've already won the season series. They're 2-0 in the season series, so even if the Lynx win that game, Connecticut will have the tiebreaker. Now, if the Lynx win that game, they probably will take second place. But it's a big deal because it's looking right now like Indiana, Caitlin Clark, the Fever, a team that's been really coming on this half of the season, will be the 6th seed more than likely. That's kind of where they're positioned right now. They could catch up. It could go one way or the other, but really right now, looking like the Fever will be the 6th seed. Do you want to be the 3 seed and take on that kind of team? That's what they would be if they fell below Connecticut in the standings. It'd be great at the gate, not so great maybe for your competition level. Lavelle Neal III and I, by the way, will get into that a little bit more on Thursday's show, trying out a new segment with Lavelle. That will be both an audio and a video component to that, something we will call the Daily Delivery Debate. He and I will take on 3 topics every week, and that will debut on Thursday's podcast. That will debut on Wednesday, today, on our YouTube channel, Star Tribune YouTube channel. So go check that out if you want a sneak preview of the first topic. First topic, I think, will be on the Twins. We're also going to talk about the Lynx, and we're going to get into a Vikings topic, NFC North topic as well. But I don't think you want to get too far down the road in terms of who you want for matchups. I think it mostly matters how you're playing as opposed to who you're playing against necessarily. But if you look at that matchup, if you look at potentially who you don't want to face in the playoffs, it is important for the Lynx to keep the foot on the gas at the end of this year. Try to win all these games. Try to beat Connecticut in particular, because if you lose that game and you wind up in a tie at the end of the season, you will be probably facing Caitlin Clark in the first round of the playoffs. Now, Lynx probably prevail in that series. I think there's reasons to think they would. And right now they're playing extremely well. 11 wins in 12 games since the All-Star break. Nafisa Collier, the whole thing is going in the right direction. The defense has been tremendous. The teamwork, just how they play as a group, has been tremendous all season. But right now, you gotta wonder if they can get it to the finish line, get that second seed, which also gives you home court in not just the first round but the second round. So a lot for them to play for still before the playoffs start here in a little over a week. Let's talk to Star Tribune Gopher football writer Randy Johnson today on Daily Delivery. Randy, Gophers lost to North Carolina, obviously, a couple weeks ago. They clobbered Rhode Island last week. Nevada, their opponent on Saturday, maybe somewhat in the middle, if you want to talk about, the extremes of, a Power 4 school that's, at least maybe on par with the Gophers in North Carolina, and then an FCS school in Rhode Island where everything gets clicking. Nevada, maybe, in the middle, a team that they maybe can learn a little bit more about themselves going into Big Ten play.
Yeah, definitely. Nevada is a program that you looked at them at the beginning of the season, the new coach and everything, and Jeff Choate, and they're coming off two back-to-back 2-win seasons. So, maybe not expecting them much, but they've been very competitive so far. They took SMU down to the wire in their opener, and they played 3 games with the total victory margin has been 10 points in those 3. They're 1-2, but every game has come down to the wire.
What do the Gophers want to find out still? I mean, we definitely saw some progression, I think, from the passing game, but again, it's an FCS opponent, and that's Max Brosmer. They knew Max Brosmer could pick apart an FCS defense. That's what he did for the entirety of his previous career at New Hampshire. What steps do we still need to see them take, or what carries over potentially from the Rhode Island win?
I just think that they what they did against Rhode Island, they got to feel good about themselves. After they had a lot of mistakes against North Carolina. They easily could have won that game. They make a couple fewer mistakes, they win. They didn't do that. North Carolina makes the key plays and gets the W. Basically, they need to build off this against a bit better of an opponent. And, I think people might be sleeping on Nevada a little bit. I think they're a little bit, the Mountain West teams can step up and shock you a little bit. I was just doing some research on the ones they played recently. They had Fresno State back-to-back in 18 and 19. And if not for 2 spectacular plays by Antoine Winfield to win the interceptions to seal the victories in both of those. Earlier they played Colorado State back-to-back, and one went to triple overtime. The other one was a 1-score game. So these teams from the Mountain West, they've given the Gophers over the years plenty of competition, and have been right there with them at the end.
Yeah, and I think that year, certainly the 2019 season, I mean, people forget how close they were to losing, pretty much all of their non-conference games that year. It was not easy. They got rolling in the Big Ten, but I think you're right. I think the Fresno State game in particular probably helped them get ready for the season because, you're right. I think the Mountain West is an underrated conference as a whole. You say, Nevada only had a couple wins last year, the year before that, but a program like that might end up being 6-6, 7-5 this season. They might look back on it and say, hey, this was actually a pretty decent team and a pretty good test.
Yeah, they have all these Mountain West programs. It seems like they have athletes, and they tend to throw the ball, and that sometimes it'll surprise a Big Ten team a little bit.
In looking back at the Rhode Island game and Max Brosmer, anything in particular stand out to you in terms of not just feeling good about himself, but throws he was making, progressions he was making, anything he was able to do there?
I think the accuracy. He went 27 of 30. Three of those balls were dropped. So he went 24 of 30. 3 of those balls were dropped. So he's basically 27 of 30. So he's he was dialed in. I like the way he spread the ball around. 9 different receivers. He had completions too. Overall, as a team, they spread the ball around to 12 different guys. It was good to see guys get into the. A guy like Christian Driver got into the end zone. You had basically you saw Darius Taylor back in the game and catching balls out of the backfield. It's a little bit different looking passing game when you can do that, and it seems like that keep defenses on their toes a little bit.
Well, that was the surprising thing, and probably the disappointing thing, really, about the North Carolina game, aside from the outcome, was that we thought we knew that Brosmer's greatest attribute was his accuracy, and at least in the first half, it wasn't there. I don't know if he was jittery, if it was the pressure was getting to him in terms of pass rush, if it was playing in front of a big crowd, what it was, but he didn't look the way we were told he would look in that first half of the first game.
Yeah, he was a little bit, maybe a little bit overly pumped up, and the accuracy wasn't quite there. And a lot has to do with, too, he was getting some pressure. North Carolina had a very good scheme up front, and they're rotating some big guys in there, and the Gophers' offensive line was having trouble stopping them. So that's one thing. It's like I'm looking forward to seeing what this line can do against Nevada. They've moved some guys around a little bit on the line. You got Quinn Carroll now back at tackle, which is probably something they didn't want to do, but it's for now it's the best thing for them.
Anything else we should note personnel-wise going into this game? And Taylor, I'm sure, made it out of the Rhode Island game okay, and they seem to be relatively healthy right now.
Yeah, I would say so. It didn't look like they had a ton of bumps and bruises. I think you look on defense. I looked at the stats, and their leading tackler had 3 tackles, which means they had a ton of guys get 2 or 3 tackles each. So it's they were able to spread the wealth quite a bit and get a lot of players into the game. Get a lot of these youngsters some time, including Coy Parrish, who gets his first career interception.
I saw they got the young quarterback in too, Drake Lindsay. He threw a touchdown pass late in the game as well. So yeah, that's a feel good game and kind of a glimpse at the future, I suppose too.
Yeah, it's BJ thinks that the depth in this team is one of its strengths. So they were able to show that off against Rhode Island. Now, can they do that against Nevada? It's a good challenge. We'll see what happens.
No, and it's entirely different, too. I mean, you go from Rhode Island to Nevada, and then if we're all being serious, I mean, you would expect them to beat Nevada, even if it's going to be a good test. They should beat Nevada. Iowa, in 11, 12 days, that's the real prize sitting out there.
Yeah.
What do we make of that, as the Big Ten opener? Kind of a different time to play Iowa. Yeah. They've put up some points this year where they haven't in other years. What do we think about that kind of in the not too distant future?
Yeah, that's going to be a challenging game for them. Obviously Iowa's got a little bit of a burr under their saddle after the way they lost last year's game, and look, they felt they had it when Cooper DeJean takes back that punt for the touchdown. That would have put him up had he not thrown up an invalid fair catch signal, which by the rule that was correct. It was kind of not handled the best by the officials on the field, where they should have blown the play dead once he put up that signal. They didn't. Iowa fans got all excited about what they thought was just a miraculous win, but Gophers were able to. They still got the ball back. Gophers were able to shut them down and keep them off the board. Ended up with that 12-10 win. I would expect another kind of tight, low-scoring game. That's it seems what these teams do when they play each other.
And I can't imagine that the Gophers fans will be reminding Iowa of that play, since this is a home game, a home night game for the Gophers. Plenty of time to maybe enjoy some beverages before that one, and then get ready for it.
Yes, and it's not like Dickeytown Athletes hasn't done a T-shirt reminding the Iowa fans of the fair catch.
What does that shirt say? I can't remember.
It has the fair catch rule on it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, invalid fair catch will probably come up a little bit more even next week. Randy Johnson, appreciate it as always. I'm sure we'll talk again next week, coming off of the Nevada game and getting ready for the start of the Big Ten season. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk to you then.
Sounds good, Mike. Appreciate it.
Good stuff from Randy, as always. Appreciate him joining me today. That will be a regular weekly occurrence during the Gophers football season. Gophers are 16.5-point favorites against Nevada, so let's not overstate the importance of this game. They need to take care of business, learn a little bit more about themselves against a team in a better conference than obviously what they played in the last week against Rhode Island. But again, a game they should win, a game that they don't want to see themselves struggle in, because the competition is going to get a lot better the week after with Iowa and the rest of the Big Ten schedule, which is pretty daunting, pretty early in the season. And like I said before, we're going to bring in Chip Scoggins now, Star Tribune columnist. He writes the Football Across Minnesota feature. That made its debut this week. Wanted to get his opinions, get his thoughts on some of the biggest topics from that. That will be a regular Wednesday feature as well, and a video feature. Again, you can find that on the Star Tribune YouTube page, and you can listen to me and Chip talk right now, right here. Chip, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's nice to have... We call it FAM for short.
FAM. We're in the FAM.
We're in the FAM.
All in the FAM.
Yeah, this is we're all in the FAM. This is season 4 of FAM. It's hard to believe it's already our 4th season, and we got it started 4 years ago. Thinking, I've covered football at all levels in Minnesota: high school, college, pro, Vikings. So why don't we just try to throw all those together and blend them together? And each week we're going to write about the football in our state at all levels. Even I've written before high school, youth football. So
sure.
If anybody sees this and has a great FAM idea about something in the football community throughout Minnesota, greater Minnesota, send it to me. But I'm excited. We're back for season number 4.
Yeah, and you had some, obviously they're great every week, but it's week 1. You go out strong. What was what's catching your eye in week 1 here?
Yeah, so I'm going to lead with a couple things here. St. Paul Johnson started. They actually had a bye in week 2, but they started off with a thrilling win, 38-35 over Highland Park. And their Coach Rich is what people know him at in St. Paul. Came to school the first day of school that following Tuesday, day after Labor Day, and the school was abuzz about football, which is not something he always hears there. Kids were excited about it, and he had 20 kids sign up to play football after that first game. Their numbers, like a lot of schools, particularly in the city, it's a struggle to get their numbers up. His first year, he had high 20s. Since then, he's been kind of low to mid 30s. And then he had 20 kids say they want to join the football team. He's constantly trying to recruit basketball players or hockey players or whatever to come out for football. So that was a huge relief and joy to him. And that first game, they have a really talented junior receiver named Justice Moody. And Justice had 6 touchdowns in that first game to tie Thomas DePay's program record. And they believe it might have been would have been a tied to record for the old St. Paul City Conference. Justice had 2 rushing touchdowns, 4 receiving touchdowns. He had a long kick return. He had an interception. He scored the game-winning touchdown with 30 seconds left on a jet sweep. And so Justice is the kid who played at the West Side Boosters program there in St. Paul growing up and had offers to go to some private schools, some bigger suburban schools, but chose to go to St. Paul Johnson and to stay there. And as he said, I'm proud to play for Johnson. I'm not embarrassed to say where I play, and he's trying to grow that program and help the coach get more numbers out and really kind of establish that program as something that kids should strive to play for.
That's amazing that they had 20 kids go out after that first game just that excited about it. And that's the rallying influence of a football program, though, and sports in general on a school, right? It is.
And Coach Rich said, because you had a big win and a great performance by Justice, and people were kind of talking about it, you got some media attention because of the win and the way it did. Well, that sparks interest. That gets kids who are maybe on the fence or maybe, not sure they want to play. They're like, hey, I want to be part of something cool or something, that's going on. And so that's how it starts. And, I've talked to a number of coaches that are constantly recruiting the hallways, hey, come out for football, give it a try. And so it helps when you have that kind of game and kids in school are talking about the program in a positive way. And so, that was an important win for them. And Justice, what he did with the 6 touchdowns, that got a lot of people's attention. So they're off to a good start. Like I said, they had a game fall through for them. A team had a forfeit last week, so they're back in action this week.
Really quick, great story out of Minnesota-Duluth too. Their kicker's got a real cool personal story.
Yeah, Curtis Cox is their longtime kicker. He's a graduate student there. Last spring, spring of 2023, he was doing some community service work in the athletic department. He was helping kids sign up for the registry for the Be a Match, the donor program. Yeah, and he was just signing them up. They do a quick cheek swab and send it off to the lab. And turns out he got picked. He got a letter, an email in November of 2023, this past November, saying that he was a match for a 2-year-old boy somewhere in the United States who has leukemia, needed his bone marrow transplant. So the organization flew him to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. He went through the procedure where they harvested his stem cells out of his hip. He doesn't get any personal information. All he knows is it's a 2-year-old boy somewhere in this country, and he helped hopefully save that kid's life and put him on a road to recovery. So really cool story, really cool act by him. And it just took he said it was a 10-second cheek swab, and he makes a profound impact on a family somewhere in this country.
That's fantastic. That's the kind of stories you're going to have all year in football across Minnesota. Really quick too, who got the game balls this week? Who's on your list?
There's going to be a few Vikings.
I think so. They were good.
Get one. Sam Darnold gets one. And I also have an item on, I thought the two head coaches of the two most visible teams, PJ Fleck throwing the ball and against a non-conference opponent, and Kevin O'Connell running the ball to establish the run. I thought they had really good game plans, and I'll highlight them too.
Hope they can play the Giants in Rhode Island every week, Joe. Every week, Chip. Do you think?
That's right. That would be nice. It gets a little tougher as they go forward.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Chip, good stuff. Like I said, we're going to do this every week. You're going to write FAM every week. Look forward to that feature every Tuesday on StarTribune.com. Look for this video feature every Wednesday. Chip, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Mikey.
Great stuff from Chip. And again, if you would rather see us talk on video, those will always be posted on the Star Tribune's YouTube page, usually on Tuesdays, a day ahead of the podcast. So check that out on the Star Tribune's YouTube page. And again, look for that every week. Look for his written feature every week on Tuesdays as well. Let us finish with the cooler, kind of an extended one, a couple items in there, stuffing the cooler today. Number one, Kirk Cousins. There's been a national narrative after that week 1 game of concern about Kirk Cousins. Not just that he struggled in his debut for the Falcons. They only put up 10 points against the Steelers, lost 18-10. But multiple people now looking at it and saying he doesn't look fully healthy. Doesn't look like he either is healthy or trusts his Achilles after coming back from that, torn Achilles that he suffered in the middle of last season with the Vikings. It's been almost a full year, but still, that is a major injury. He's a 36-year-old quarterback, and that's going to take some time. Now, what we have to figure out is whether it's just rust, whether he's just kind of like still shaking that off, hadn't really seen live game action for a long time before that game against the Steelers, or if there's more to it. If what they're seeing on film, what some of these experts are seeing on film, that he's not driving the ball, not pushing off that back foot, that the Falcons are having to use some offensive gimmicks, putting him in the pistol formation, which he barely has ever used in his career, not doing much play action, not putting him under center at all because of the way their offense is designed, but not wanting to put too much pressure on him, that they're too predictable because of the limitations around Cousins right now. That's a problem because those things won't necessarily smooth out. Yeah, he'll probably feel a little bit better as the year goes on, but how much better and how much will the Atlanta offense function differently if there's just a marginal upgrade? So a lot of national narrative right now about the struggles of Kirk Cousins. It's not just that he missed some throws or that the offense looked a little bit disjointed, but that he still doesn't look fully healthy or comfortable. And that is an interesting and not great thing if you're the Falcons, but maybe a thing that if you're a Vikings fan or if you're the Vikings decision makers, you're probably looking at and saying, we kind of thought that, or we were wondering about that, or we were worried about that, and glad maybe at this point, extra glad that they moved on. Now, the biggest thing in Atlanta, too, is they drafted Michael Penix Jr., number 8 overall. He's sitting there right now. I wonder if the calls for Penix will get even louder soon, especially if they struggle in week 2. They're like a touchdown underdog at Philadelphia. If they struggle at Philadelphia, which is a tough place to play, that could get interesting and ugly quickly in Atlanta. Other part of the cooler today is an email I got from listener Bob.
Time to check my social media, yeah. To see who loves me online. Hashtag blessed life.
Now, he says, I listened to your recent podcast about the change to the kickoff rules on your Always Fun podcast. Thanks, Bob. By the way, he says, except for when Royce is on. 70% I feel of the emails I get, maybe that's overstating it, but a lot of the emails I get, there's some mention of the Monday shows with Royce, and it's like 2/3 of people love it, 1/3 of the people don't love it. It cracks me up every time because everybody has to comment on the Royce shows one way or the other. That's why the guy's a legend, because he has evoked opinions strongly for so long, and they're not always great, they're not always bad, but they are somewhere in the middle, and if you are doing that, you are doing something right. Anyway, back to where I was. He also had a diversion. He had a digression. He says, oh yes, the NFL's new kickoff rules. Get back to the drawing board. You're absolutely right. But now on to finally the actual subject of the email, field goals. 20 of 22. NFL kickers were 20 of 22 from 50-plus last week. What's exciting about that? Maybe a field goal made from 35-plus yards gives you exactly 1 point. That's about what it's worth in game excitement, regardless of the last-second hoopla on a made kick at the end of the game. I don't think they're going to go to that rule, Bob, but this did get me interested in kind of where we're headed. So you combine the new kickoff rules, right, which says, which puts players in a different position, obviously, but also says a touchback gives you the ball at the 30 instead of the 25, and teams are still, by and large, taking that. I think the average starting field position in Week 1 off of an opening kickoff or off of a kickoff was the 28.8 yard line. That's about a 4.5 to 5 yard gain from where it was last year in terms of average starting field position after a touchdown or a field goal, after a kickoff, right? You combine that with kickers that are so accurate from so far away now, and you look at last year where the average length of a drive in the NFL was about 32 yards. If you're starting from the 30, an average drive in the NFL is getting you right to the fringe of field goal range. It's getting you to like the 38-yard line of the opponent. It's like a 55, 56-yard field goal, which is a pretty high percentage kick right now. It's not, it's not automatic, but most kickers from 55 yards right now are going to make more than they're going to miss, at least. They're probably going to make 60% of those kicks at least, in this modern NFL. Those used to be outlandish. Those used to be, you don't see kicks like that. It used to be someone made from 50 plus. It was amazing. And now it's kind of everyday commonplace. Is that exciting? I don't know. Are teams, more likely to settle because of kickers are so good right now because it doesn't take much to get into field goal position? I wonder if there will be kind of a hidden cost of the kickoff rules. Not so much that that the changes to the rules are kind of confusing and making teams wonder what they're supposed to be doing in a live ball situation, but that the touchback gives you the ball at the 30 now instead of the 25, makes it even closer just to get a couple first downs. You're probably getting close to field goal range, getting close to, hey, just got to get a few more yards. We'll give our kicker a chance to get 3 on this possession. So if the NFL wants to do away with so many field goals, they might have to rethink the field position, at least on these kickoffs, and think about how that is impacting the game. So thanks to Bob for that. Thanks to everybody who is listening. Again, Lavelle E. Neal III on Thursday's show, a new feature, the daily delivery debate. We'll see how it goes over the course of time. It's just a concept of a plan right now, but I think it's a good one. I think Lavelle is the perfect partner on that, so I think he is going to be kind of the main guest on that. Again, you can find those on the Star Tribune YouTube channel. First one will go up today, then they'll go up Thursday and Friday, kind of all 3 of the subjects combined on those videos, and then all of them will be on Thursday's podcast as well. Until then, I am Michael Rand. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Back at it again tomorrow.